Rajesh from Export Promotion Council for Handicrafts, and I welcome you all for this seminar on hedging and factoring. It is one of the important uh, in the financial management, and we have with us Sri Ravi Pasiji, our former chairman, and our speaker Mansi Goyalji and Rajendraji. Mansi Goyal will be speaking on the hedging. Sorry, factoring, and Rajendraji will be speaking on the hedging. You know, factoring is one of the very important thing in the financial management. You know, there are the financial institution which help the exporter to manage their liquidity. Okay, and the hedging is one of the things, like everyone knows, which saves your risk, basically the risk management. So before moving further, I request Pasi Saab to welcome our distinguished speakers with a bouquet. Thank you, sir. Rajendra ji. So not wasting much of the time because we are already delayed waiting for the members to join for the seminar. So I hand over the mic to Rajendra ji to proceed in his topic.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Rajendra. I am representing Greenback Advisory Service. Other various instruments which are available for hedging today. First and foremost, just a short brief about our company. We are in this, we are a consultancy firm and we are about 28 years in this business now. And we are also quite active on trade finance activities. Part of it is factoring and but majorly import financing जो होता है, अगर आप में से किसी का import है तो उसमें अगर आप LC खोलते हैं या SBLC करते हैं तो उसके लिए भी हम SOFR प्लस जो इंटरनेशनल रेट होता है अगर इट वाज LIBOR SOFR प्लस बेसिस पे मनीष खाना वाला मिस्टर सुब्रमण्यम शर्मा बेसिकली देयर आर टू डायरेक्टर्स दे स्टार्टेड दिस वेंचर मनीष खाना वाला जी चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट एंड MBA फ्रॉम पेस यूनिवर्सिटी Subramaniam Sharma, he carries a good exposure in trade finance activities. In fact, he was the one who was instrumental जो trade desk जिन्होंने set किया था रुचि सोया में. So they started off this venture jointly. अभी we start off with the FX list. Basically FX list क्या है सर? आप import कर रहे हैं या export कर रहे हैं? अगर side basis पे भी है आपका कोई import या export तो यू कैन स्टिल कैरी फ्लक्चुएशन फॉर अबाउट 15 days 20 days कि आज आपने एक ऑर्डर बुक किया जिसका पेमेंट मे बी 15-20 दिन बाद आएगा और तब करेंसी का वैल्यू क्या रहेगा 15-20 दिन में सिंस दीज डेज मार्केट्स आर सो वॉलेटाइल तो यू कैरी दैट रिस्क कि आपने कॉस्टिंग ली उस बेसिस पे आपने एक्सपोर्ट किया एंड देन जब वो आपका रियलाइजेशन हो रहा है तो वेदर यू आर एबल टू मीट अप यूर मार्जिन और नॉट दैट इज वन रिस्क यू कैरी तो in case of I'll keep it very simple basic USD INR अगर आप करते हैं डॉलर का है तो अगर आज की डेट में इट वाज क्लोज टू 87 की तरफ जाता है तो एक्सपोर्टर्स के लिए फायदा है इंपोर्टर्स के लिए नुकसान मार्केट इफ यू डिफाइन मार्केट इट्स द बिगेस्ट मार्केट FX मार्केट जो है 24 आवर ऑपरेट करती है तो ओवर द काउंटर मार्केट है सर मेजर मार्केट्स आर ऑस्ट्रेलिया जापान हांगकॉन्ग तो अर्ली मॉर्निंग स्टार्ट ऑफ विद जापान एंड देन इट मूव्स फॉरवर्ड सिंगापुर हांगकॉन्ग UK USA इंडियन मार्केट एज ऑफ नाउ जो FX मार्केट अगर आपको बैंक के साथ अवेलेबल है इट स्टार्ट ऑफ एट 9 AM अप टिल 3:30 PM आफ्टरनून एंड ऑथराइज डीलर विच आर कॉल्ड एज योर बैंकर्स दे आर ऑथराइज डीलर जहां से आप अपना रेमिटेंस मंगवा सकते हैं या आगे रेमिटेंस भेज सकते हैं एक्सपोर्ट इम्पोर्ट के लिए मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली RBI हैं सबके ऊपर सेंट्रल बैंक विच गवर्न्स ऑल दीज ट्रांजेक्शंस and these days RBI is quite active in managing FX volatility in market. अगर आप लास्ट 2-2.5 साल का सिनेरियो देखेंगे तो रुपी hasn't depreciated much vis-a-vis डॉलर तो लास्ट 2-2.5 साल जहां importers को काफ़ी safeguard रहा but going forward we might see a different scenario in 26, 27, 25 onwards. Corporates को ADs के साथ ही डील करना आता है रुपी कोटेड अगेंस्ट डॉलर बाकी जितनी करेंसीज है दोज आर ऑल डिराइव्ड रेट्स so if you are dealing in euro GBP so it's rupee to dollar and dollar to that third currency that's how you derive at that particular rate forex terminologies की बात करें सर bid ask जब भी आप अगर कोई भी स्क्रीन देखते हैं यूजुअली वहाँ 2 रेट कोट होते हैं तो bid is basically for exporters ask is for importers आप अगर बहुत बेसिक रखना चाहें सर, जो रेट आपके लिए वर्स्ट है अगर स्क्रीन पे दिख रहा है, लेट्स से स्क्रीन पे कोट हो रहा है 85 एंड 8501, आप एक्सपोर्टर हैं तो आपको कम वाला रेट ही मिलेगा, दैट इज 85। इंपोर्टर है तो 8501, तो दैट इज कॉल्ड बिड एंड आस्क, और जो दोनों के बीच का गैप है दैट इज कॉल्ड स्प्रेड। बिग फिगर जब हम बात करते हैं देन वी टॉक अबाउट क्रॉस करेंसीज, जहां पे यूरो, जीबीपी, येन। तो yesterday यूरो वाज क्लोज टू 1.04। वन बिग फिगर अगर मैं बोलता हूं कि वन बिग फिगर का मूवमेंट हुआ तो इधर इट इज टुवर्ड्स 1.03 और 1.05, तो दैट इज कॉल्ड वन बिग फिगर ऑन क्रॉसेस। बेसिस पॉइंट्स प्राइमरली यूज्ड इन इंटरेस्ट रेट, कि जब हम कोई भी इंटरेस्ट अगर लाइबोर बेसिस या कुछ हम पीसीएससी ले रहे हैं फॉरेन करेंसी में, देन वी यूजुअली कॉल की सोफर प्लस दीज मेनी बेसिस पॉइंट्स, तो दैट इज प्रैक्टिकली आपका क्या परसेंटेज लग रहा है ओवर एंड अबव सोफर। तो इफ यू से 150 बेसिस पॉइंट्स, दिस इज लाइक 1.5% ओवर एंड अबव सोफर। स्पॉट प्राइस, प्रीमियम, डिस्काउंट, लॉन्ग शॉर्ट, स्टॉप लॉस, टेक प्रॉफिट। स्पॉट प्राइस आई विल टेक अ फर्दर। स्पॉट बेसिकली क्या होता है कि दैट इज 2 वर्किंग डेज। हम आज अगर बैठे हैं तो जो स्क्रीन पे हमें रेट दिख रहा है वो 2 वर्किंग डेज अहेड जो है उसका रेट है। अगर हमें आज ही कोई रेमिटेंस करनी है या रियलाइजेशन लेनी है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज कैश रेट। तो अगर हमारा कोई रेमिटेंस 2 दिन बाद है जो अकाउंट में क्रेडिट होना है, हम उसका रेट आज फिक्स कर सकते हैं, दैट इज कॉल्ड स्पॉट। प्रीमियम्स, डिस्काउंट, स्पॉट के बियॉन्ड कोई भी मैच्योरिटी रहेगी, दैट इज फॉरवर्ड। उसके लिए आप प्रीमियम पे करेंगे या क्रॉस करेंसीज में, देयर आर सर्टेन करेंसीज जैसे यूरो में यू विल गेट इट एट डिस्काउंट बिकॉज वहां पे इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर लोअर विद डॉलर। लॉन्ग शॉर्ट, these are terminologies कि importers और exporters के लिए यूज होता है। long is primarily for importer, कि आप एक करेंसी पे long हो गए, आपने वो बाय कर दी। short, जैसे हम इक्विटीज में भी देखते हैं कि हमने इक्विटी शॉर्ट कर दी, short is primarily for exporters कि हमने सेल कर दिया। stop loss, take profit, by any chance if you are doing some trading in currencies, so these are the terms which you should monitor and उसके बेसिस पे ही करना चाहिए। stop loss is आप कितना लॉस एक ट्रेडिंग पोजीशन में बेयर करने के लिए रेडी हैं। तो आइडियली जब भी आप कोई ट्रेडिंग पोजीशन ले रहे हैं, यू शुड एडहेयर टू दीज लेवल्स। टेक प्रॉफिट, अगेन इट्स अप टू यू कि आप क्या लेवल रखना चाहते हैं प्रॉफिट लेने का। these are the different terminologies in FX। concept of base currency sir, like in case of USD, जो पहला लिखा हुआ है पेयर, that is US is for country, D is for dollar, likewise INR is for India, R for rupee। सब करेंसीज में ऐसा ही होता है। तो फर्स्ट 2 लेटर्स आर फॉर कंट्री एंड देन उसका जो भी करेंसी है उसके रिगार्डिंग। तो बेस करेंसी इन यूएसडी आईएनआर, जब हम यूएसडी आईएनआर बोलते हैं कि हमें $1 में कितने आईएनआर मिल रहे हैं। लाइकवाइज देयर इज अ डिफरेंट कोड इन यूरो। यूरो, उसमें हम यूएसडी यूरो नहीं बोलते, यूरो यूएसडी बोलते हैं कि हमें 1 यूरो में कितने डॉलर मिलते हैं। देन द बेस करेंसी इज यूरो, नॉट डॉलर। तो इट्स अ डिफरेंट कोड, एक अमेरिकन कोड बोला जाता है, एक यूरोपियन कोड, बट ये इस तरीके से मार्केट में कोड होते हैं। एंड व्हेन वी से एप्रिशिएटिंग आईएनआर, दैट मींस रुपया एप्रिशिएट हो रहा है 85 से टुवर्ड्स 84, 83, व्हिच इज नॉट गुड फॉर एक्सपोर्टर्स। एंड इफ वी से डेप्रिशिएटिंग आईएनआर, दैट मींस 85 से टुवर्ड्स 86, 87, व्हिच इज बेनिफिशियल फॉर एक्सपोर्टर्स। टू वे कोड जैसे मैंने आपको बताया सर, बिड आस्क, बेसिकली बिड इज फॉर एक्सपोर्टर, जिसपे बैंक ऑफर करता है आपको। ऑब्वियसली जो आपको स्क्रीन पे रेट दिखेगा, किसी भी स्क्रीन, अगर आपके पास कोई कंसल्टेंट की स्क्रीन है या आप कोई भी और भी स्क्रीन यूज कर रहे हैं, तो वो रेट आपको नहीं मिलेगा बिकॉज बैंक अपना मार्जिन रखेगा उसके ऊपर। उसमें भी कुछ एक टर्मिनोलॉजीज आती हैं लाइक कैश पॉट, वो मैं आगे डिस्कस करूंगा। तो जब भी आप फॉरवर्ड भी बुक कर रहे हैं, तो जो आपको स्क्रीन पे रेट लिख रहा है प्लस फॉरवर्ड, आपको एग्जैक्ट वो रेट नहीं मिलता। बैंक अपना मार्जिन रखेगा उसमें, whichever is agreed, वो रखेगा, या वॉलेटिलिटी के हिसाब से दे ट्राई टू मेक as much money as they can। तो bid is for exporter, ask is for importer। difference between bid ask is spread, जैसे मैंने बताया 85, 8502, वो 2 पैसा spread। quotation method, direct method, यूरोपियन एंड अमेरिकन, जो मैंने आपको बताया यूएसडी आया ना, इन यूरो यूएसडी वाला। यूरोपियन मेथड में अगेन वही यूएसडी आया ना, जहां बेस करेंसी जो है डॉलर है। अमेरिकन मेथड में जहां बेस करेंसी फॉरेन करेंसी, तो यूरो यूएसडी, इस केस में जो कल का रेट था 1.0380, तो दैट इज लाइक 1 यूरो में आपको कितने डॉलर मिल रहे हैं। तो जब भी बैंक आपको कोट करता है तो दे कोटेड इन दिस मैनर ओनली। वो रिवर्स नहीं बताएगा कि $1 में आपको कितने यूरो मिलेंगे, तो दे विल ऑलवेज टेल कि €1 में आपको कितने डॉलर मिलते हैं। नाउ दीज आर द वैल्यू डेट्स, जैसे बताया कैश, टर्म, स्पॉट, फॉरवर्ड। कैश इज एज ऑफ टुडे, आपकी कोई पेमेंट आपको अगर क्रेडिट आज चाहिए दैट इज कॉल्ड कैश। आप 2 दिन बाद भी क्रेडिट ले सकते हो, दैट इज कॉल्ड स्पॉट। बट अगर आपको आज क्रेडिट चाहिए देन देयर इज कैश स्पॉट इंस्ट्रूमेंट विच इज इन्वॉल्व। तो जब भी आप बैंक से रेट लेंगे, जो रेट आपको दिख रहा है, बैंक उसमें से पहले तो कैश स्पॉट माइनस करेगा, कैश स्पॉट के बाद बैंक अपना मार्जिन माइनस करेगा, वो अमाउंट आपको सेम डे पे क्रेडिट होगा। लाइकवाइज इंपोर्ट के केस में अगर बाई चांस आपका इंपोर्ट है तो देन कैश स्पॉट इज बेनिफिशियल फॉर यू, वो चार्ज नहीं करेगा, दैट इज अ डिस्काउंट फॉर यू। और यूजुअली अगर आप देखेंगे ओवर ए वीकेंड कैश स्पॉट जो है वो हायर साइड पे रहता है, बिकॉज 2 वर्किंग डेज, अगर थर्सडे है तो देन फ्राइडे इज अ वर्किंग डे, सैटरडे संडे ऑफ हुआ, मंडे इज अ वर्किंग डे। तो ओवर ए वीकेंड कैश स्पॉट्स आर यूजुअली हायर, या बीच में कोई यूएस हॉलीडे आ गया, इंडिया हॉलीडे आ गया, तो उन दिनों में कैश स्पॉट्स आर हायर। ड्यूरिंग वीकडेज कैश स्पॉट्स मोर और लेस सेम ही रहता है। आज की डेट में वैसे भी इंटरेस्ट डिफरेंशियल इतना कम आ गया है, बट ओवर द वीकेंड आई हैव सीन 3 पैसे से 3.5 पैसा इन डॉलर टर्म्स कैश स्पॉट। यूरो वगैरह में जाएंगे तो उसमें 5.5 से 6 पैसा तक आ जाता है। तो कैश इज डे 1, डे 0, मुझे आज पेमेंट करना है, आज मेरा अकाउंट डेबिट हुआ, मुझे आज रिसीवेबल का क्रेडिट चाहिए, आज मेरा अकाउंट क्रेडिट हुआ, दैट इज डे 0। कैश प्लस 1 इज टर्म, मैं रेट आज फिक्स कर सकता हूं, मेरे को अमाउंट कल क्रेडिट होगा। लाइकवाइज इंपोर्ट के केस में मैं रेट आज फिक्स करूंगा, मेरा अकाउंट कल की डेट में डेबिट होगा। स्पॉट इज 2 वर्किंग डेज, अगेन एज आई सेड, अगर हम फ्राइडे कल का रेट लेंगे तो ट्यूसडे इज माय स्पॉट, 2 वर्किंग डेज। तो मैं ट्यूसडे के लिए रेट बुक कर लूंगा, अमाउंट मेरा उस दिन क्रेडिट होगा, उसमें मेरा कैश स्पॉट या कुछ और नहीं लगेगा, बस सिर्फ बैंक का मार्जिन जाएगा, दैट इज कॉल्ड स्पॉट। एनीथिंग बियॉन्ड स्पॉट इज फॉरवर्ड, वो आपको फॉरवर्ड पॉइंट हर मंथ एंड के हिसाब से मिलते हैं, तो उसके स्पॉट के बियॉन्ड कोई भी डेट होगी दैट इज फॉरवर्ड, बी इट 1 वीक, 10 days, 1 month, 12 months or even higher, that is forward. So hedging is basically covering your risk and covering your benchmarks or margins in whichever way you want to call it. तो आज आपने एक एक्सपोर्ट किया जिसका रियलाइजेशन लेट्स से 3 months 6 months डाउन द लाइन, यू डोंट नो आप उस दिन डॉलर का रेट क्या होगा। So there are different hedging instruments available to you. On that basis आप अपना रेट फिक्स कर सकते हैं। Certain instruments allow you कि आप मार्केट में प्ले भी कर सकें, that I just discussed. Forward is as simple as that, आपने एक रेट लॉक कर लिया, let's say 3 महीने के बाद आपका रिसीवेबल है, आज आपको 3 महीने बाद ₹1 प्रीमियम मिल रहा है, 85 + 1, 86 आपका रेट लॉक हो गया। On that particular day, if rupees at 87, तब भी आपको 86 मिलेगा, रुपये 84 हुआ तो भी आपको 86 मिलेगा, आपका रेट लॉक हो गया। फ्यूचर इज अ डिफरेंट मार्केट विच इज यू माइट हैव हर्ड ऑफ MCX एंड NSE, तो वहाँ पे देयर इज नो कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ब्रोकन डेट्स, इट्स ए मंथ, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, आप अकॉर्डिंगली बुक कर सकते हैं, बट इट्स अ वेरी ट्रांसपेरेंट मार्केट। आपके स्क्रीन पे रेट अवेलेबल है जो आपका बैंक के साथ नहीं होगा, बट अगेन आपकी डिलीवरी बैंक के पास ही जाएगी। तो अनलेस अंटिल यू हैव अ डायर नीड कि आपको बैंक में लिमिट डिफिकल्टी हो रही है, देन फ्यूचर इज देयर, बिकॉज अननेसेसरली अगर आप कुछ ट्रेडिंग नहीं कर रहे या आपका सिर्फ बिजनेस डिलीवरी बेस्ड है, तो आप 2 जगह मार्जिन पे करेंगे, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली आपको डॉक्यूमेंट बैंक में ही लगाना है, वो बैंक में भी मार्जिन जाएगा और फ्यूचर में आपको कैंसिल करनी पड़ेगी पोजीशन, तो एट टाइम ऑफ बुकिंग आप थोड़ा मार्जिन देंगे, एट टाइम ऑफ कैंसिलेशन देंगे, एंड ड्यूरिंग दो 3 पीरियड यू माइट हैव MTM पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव जो आपको सर्व करना पड़ेगा। So if you are purely into business of hedging, then forward is, I would say bank is best bet. Then is option. Option gives you a leeway. It is more like an insurance for you. आपने एक रेट फिक्स कर दिया and for that particular maturity, and उस maturity पे if market is I would say, मतलब मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि आपने जैसे 86 का रेट लॉक किया तो उसके लिए आपने एक इंश्योरेंस अपफ्रंट पे कर दिया 50 पैसा। आप उस इंश्योरेंस में आपने क्या बाय कर लिया कि अगर मार्केट उस दिन 87 होगी तो आप 87 लेंगे, बट अगर मार्केट 84 आ गई देन यू आर स्टिल एट 86। तो दिस इज कॉल्ड पुट ऑप्शन, जो आप इक्विटीज में भी करते होंगे, पुट कॉल इक्विटीज में भी चलता है। एक्सपोर्ट के लिए इट इज कॉल्ड पुट ऑप्शन, इट इज एन इंश्योरेंस जहां आप अपफ्रंट प्रीमियम पे करके आप वर्स्ट केस सिनेरियो जो आपका है वो लॉक कर लेते हैं, एंड बेस्ट केस सिनेरियो इज ओपन फॉर यू। अगर मार्केट कहीं और लेट्स से 87 88 चली गई, दैट ऑल स्पेस इज ओपन फॉर यू। उसके लिए आपने इनिशियली आपने इंश्योरेंस पे कर दिया।
What happens if I can't meet my commitment that day?
सर 86 पे लॉक हो, 87 गया तो आपको 50 पैसा प्रीमियम जा चुका है, कुछ नहीं होगा। 84 आ गया तो आपको 2 रुपये मिल जाएंगे। 86 आपका लॉक है सर, इधर यू विल एक्सरसाइज योर ऑप्शन और यू विल नॉट। 87 पे आप एक्सरसाइज नहीं करोगे, यू हैव एन ऑप्शन टू एक्सरसाइज टू सेल योर डॉलर एट 86। 87 गया तो यू नॉट एक्सरसाइज योर ऑप्शन, आप मार्केट में सेल करोगे। डॉलर नहीं आए तो आपके पास डॉलर देने को नहीं हो, 50 पैसा आपका चला गया, वो वैसे भी चला गया। डे वन आपको, इसके लिए आप फॉरवर्ड जब भी देखते होंगे किसी भी स्क्रीन पे, तो मंथ एंड होता है, जैन एंड, फेब एंड, मार्च एंड, वैसे फॉरवर्ड कोड होता है। एंड लाइकवाइज फॉरवर्ड मार्केट इज एक्टिव फॉर 1 ईयर। इनफैक्ट 1 ईयर के बियॉन्ड भी है फॉरवर्ड मार्केट, बट वो कहीं स्क्रीन पे नहीं मिलेगा आपको, दैट इज डिराइव्ड, वो बैंक भी कैलकुलेट करके बताते हैं। एंड फॉरवर्ड क्या होता है सर, बेसिकली द रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट रेट डिफरेंशियल। आपने अभी जब रेट यूएस रेट कट से पहले आपके फॉरवर्ड बहुत नैरो थे, हार्डली 1%, 1.25%। जैसे जैसे रेट कट होता गया वहाँ आपके फॉरवर्ड बढ़ते गए, तो जितना रेट कट हुआ वहाँ इंटरेस्ट का, यहाँ आपका डिफरेंशियल बढ़ता गया, तो फॉरवर्ड में रिफ्लेक्ट हो गया। अब फॉरवर्ड तक क्लोज टू 2.5, अगर वहाँ और रेट कट हुआ और यहाँ पे नहीं हुआ तो वो गैप और बढ़ेगा और आपको फॉरवर्ड और मिलेगा। तो जो करेंसी फंडामेंटली जो करेंसी रेट कट करती है वो डेप्रिशिएट होती है, जो रेट हायर होती है दैट वाज स्ट्रॉन्गर साइड। फॉरवर्ड अगेन नॉट ए फोरकास्ट बट फ्यूचर स्पॉटेड। आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि इसका ये 3 महीने बाद का फॉरवर्ड 1 रुपया तो रुपया 86 ही होगा। दैट इज नॉट ए रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ एंटिसिपेशन ऑफ मार्केट, इट जस्ट इट्स प्योरली एन इंटरेस्ट रेट। आप आज एक करेंसी में लेके दूसरी में इन्वेस्ट करो, उसमें आपको कोई एडवांटेज ना मिले, तो वो फॉरवर्ड प्रीमियम, दैट इज प्योरली इंटरेस्ट रेट। टाइप्स ऑफ फॉरवर्ड, फिक्स्ड डेट, ब्रोकन डेट। फिक्स्ड डेट आप किसी भी डेट का लाइक मंथ एंड, जैसे मैंने बताया जैन एंड फेब एंड। ब्रोकन डेट अगर आपको विद इन दोज मंथ, मतलब किसी मंथ का 12 तारीख 13 तारीख ब्रोकन डेट। ऑप्शन पीरियड, आई एम श्योर मोस्ट ऑफ यू वुड बी नोइंग, जब आप फॉरवर्ड बुक करने जाते हैं तो आप एक ऑप्शन पीरियड ले लेते हैं, 1 मंथ विंडो विच इज मैक्सिमम 1 मंथ विंडो, मतलब आप 15 से 15, 13 से 13 लाइक वाइज आप कोई भी ले सकते हैं। आप में से काफी लोग यूज करते हैं ऑप्शन पीरियड, बिकॉज दिस लकूना, मतलब अगर आप ऑप्शन पीरियड यूज करते हैं, वो आई जस्ट एक्सप्लेन, तो उसका ऑल्टरनेट है जिससे आपकी रियलाइजेशन बेटर हो सकता है। ठीक है, इंपोर्ट के लिए भी सेम है, एक्सपोर्ट के लिए भी सेम है। इट जस्ट कि एक्सपोर्ट के लिए बिड रेट चलेगा, इंपोर्ट के लिए आस्क रेट चलेगा। तो बस आपको उसको ऐड करना है एंड इट गिव्स यू अ फिगर। ब्रोकन डेट्स के लिए इसमें जैसे बताया मंथ एंड, दिसंबर एंड का प्रीमियम आज की डेट में था 4.5 पैसा एंड जैन एंड था 22.5 पैसा। तो जैन जो 22.5 है दैट इज इंक्लूसिव ऑफ 4.5। तो अगर हम सिर्फ जैन का लेने जाएंगे दैट इज 18 पैसा। तो अगर आपको कहीं स्क्रीन पे ब्रोकन डेट नहीं मिला हुआ तो आप नॉर्मल ऐसे कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं कि टोटल जैन इज 18 पैसा एंड अगर मेरे को 15 जैन करना है तो आइडियली दैट वुड बी 9। तो 9 प्लस 4.5 यू जस्ट ऐड टू स्पॉट, तो ये बॉल टॉक एक नंबर आ जाता है आपके लिए। लाइकवाइज आप किसी भी मंथ में अगर आप ऐसा करना चाहें तो आपके पास प्रीवियस मंथ और उस मंथ का अगर आपके पास फॉरवर्ड प्रीमियम है तो आप बीच में किसी भी डेट का इस कैलकुलेशन से निकाल।
This is always on a pro rata basis.
फॉरवर्ड फॉर ऑप्शन पीरियड। अब ऑप्शन पीरियड में क्या रहता है सर, आई टेक एन एक्सपोर्ट एग्जांपल। आपका दिसंबर टू जनवरी अगर आप ऑप्शन लेने जाते हैं, अभी दिसंबर तो खत्म होने को आ गया, बट लाइक मैं जैन टू फेब ले लेता हूँ कि जैन का प्रीमियम, जैन एंड का प्रीमियम इज 22 पैसा, बट जैन स्टार्टिंग वुड बी 4.5 क्योंकि वो दिसंबर एंड का प्रीमियम है। फेब का वुड बी अनदर लेट्स से 18 पैसा, तो 40 पैसा होगा। तो अगर मैं जैन टू फेब प्रीमियम लेने जाऊंगा तो मेरे को या जैन फर्स्ट से 31 जैन, आई गुड इट दिस जैन फर्स्ट से 31 जैन, तो मेरे को जो पास ऑन होगा प्रीमियम वो डे 1 तक का होगा। तो जो अभी यहाँ 4.5 पैसा दिख रहा है मेरे को बस उतना मिलेगा। उसमें मेरे को फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी जरूर मिलती है कि मैं थ्रू आउट द पीरियड कभी भी डॉक्यूमेंट लगा सकता हूँ। 1 महीने का मेरे को विंडो पीरियड मिल गया, आप उसी रेट पे आप अपना क्रिस्टलाइज करेंगे रियलाइजेशन। बट अब इसमें चैलेंज क्या है सर, अगर 1% आपको कभी कैंसिल करना पड़ गया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट तो प्रीमियम आपको डे 1 तक का मिलता है, पर कैंसिलेशन में वो लास्ट डे का चार्ज करेगा बैंक। वन थिंग इज दिस, एंड मोस्टली आपका प्रीमियम जब आप डॉक्यूमेंट करते हैं, मतलब जब तक के प्रीमियम्स कम थे 1% विद इन 1.5%, आपको उतना पेंच नहीं हुआ होगा। बट इसका ऑल्टरनेट क्या है सर, कि आपको सर्टेनिटी नहीं है, बट आपको ये तो पता है कि जनवरी में आएगा मेरा डॉक्यूमेंट, आप जैन एंड का प्रीमियम ले लीजिए, आपको प्रीमियम पूरा मिला। वर्स्ट केस सिनेरियो, आपके डॉक्यूमेंट पहले आ गए, आप उसकी अर्ली डिलीवरी कर पाओ। अर्ली डिलीवरी में आपको एडवांटेज क्या मिलेगा, लेट्स से आपके 15 जैन को डॉक्यूमेंट आए, तो जो आपको प्रीमियम 30 जैन तक का मिला था, उसमें से बस 15 दिन का माइनस होगा। तो बेसिकली जो मिला आपको एक्स्ट्रा मिला वो ही गया। अनलाइक जो हम ऑप्शन पीरियड में डे 1 अभी 18 पैसा प्रीमियम है। तो अगर आपका हर वीक भी डॉक्यूमेंट आ रहा है, तो बाय डूइंग दिस प्रैक्टिस आपका रियलाइजेशन इजीली 5 से 6 पैसा बढ़ जाएगा, rather than taking day 1 फॉरवर्ड। मतलब ऑप्शन का हमेशा वो एक पॉसिबिलिटी रहेगी कि 1% अगर आपको कैंसिल करना पड़ा तो आपको प्रीमियम आगे का पे करना पड़ेगा। नाउ कॉस्ट रिडक्शन ऑप्शन स्ट्रेटजी सर, अब आजकल आरबीआई ने काफी रिलैक्सेशन दे दी हैं, जैसे मैं बताया कि अपार्ट फ्रॉम फॉरवर्ड फ्यूचर देयर आर सर्टेन स्ट्रक्चर्स, एक तो कॉल पुट ऑप्शन हो गया, बट दीज आर कॉस्ट रिड्यूसिंग ऑप्शन स्ट्रेटजीज, जहां पे आप थोड़ा सा रियलाइजेशन अपना बढ़ा सकते हैं। इसमें एक एग्जांपल जैसे है कि स्पॉट इज 85, मैं अगर 1 मिलियन लेट्स से मार्च एंड का प्रीमियम बुक करता हूं तो मेरे को 85.56 मिलता है। उसकी जगह मैं एक ऑप्शन ले रहा हूं जिसमें मैंने बाय पुट किया 85 का फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर मैच्योरिटी, और सेल पुट किया 84.20, इसके लिए मैंने प्रीमियम पे किया 18 पैसा। अब इसमें मेरे को क्या फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी मिलती है सर, बाय पुट मेरे पास 85 का बाय पुट है, 85 के ऊपर जहां भी मार्केट गई वो स्पेस मेरे लिए ओपन इन दिस रेंज 84.20 टू 85, अगर उस दिन इस रेंज में रहा अगेन आई एम एट 85, और 84.20 के अगर नीचे चला गया तो आई एम स्पॉट प्लस जो इसका डिफरेंस है 80 पैसा, मेरे को स्पॉट प्लस 80 पैसा मिलेगा।
So if it is 84 rupees,
84.80 राइट,
then what if it goes higher?
87 इज ऑल माइन। आप इसमें प्रीमियम थोड़ा कम पे कर देते हैं, बट अगेन टू डू दिस कॉस्ट रिडक्शन स्ट्रक्चर आरबीआई का अपना कंप्लायंस है कि आइडियली लगभग कंपनी की 300 करोड़ होनी चाहिए, बिकॉज you would have remembered 2009 नमूदा फियास्को एंड उसको जितने डेरिवेटिव लॉसेस हुए, तो उसके बाद से डेरिवेटिव ऑलमोस्ट खत्म ही कर दिया था आरबीआई ने, बट नाउ ग्रेजुअली दे हैव ईजिंग इट ऑफ। उसके लिए उन्होंने थोड़े कंप्लायंसेस वो स्ट्रिक्ट कर दिए हैं कि कंपनी कौन सी कंपनी जो है वो ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर्स में जा सकती है, सो दैट कि जो आपको उसको चेक करना चाहिए। आई जस्ट टेकन एन एग्जांपल कि आप फॉरेन करेंसी में अगर लेते हैं तो 6 मंथ SOFR प्लस 150 बेसिस पॉइंट पे आपकी क्या कॉस्ट आती है, एंड विद सबवेंशन आई होप मोस्ट ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट इज विलिंग सबवेंशन।
PC is PCL.
पैकिंग करेंगे, आपको ऑप्शन होता है सर या आप फॉरेन करेंसी में लीजिए या रुपये में लीजिए। तो फॉरेन करेंसी में अगर आप लेते हैं तो आई हैव टेकन 6 मंथ SOFR प्लस 150, अगर 1.5% की कॉस्ट है तो आपकी कॉस्ट बढ़ती है 5.76। लाइकवाइज अगर आपका इंटरेस्ट रेट इज एट 9%, उसमें आपको 2% का सबवेंशन मिलता है, तो 7% हो गया, एंड प्लस सिंस यू आर टेकिंग इट इन रुपी तो आप उसके अगेंस्ट फॉरवर्ड सेल कर सकते हैं, व्हिच इज पीसी में यू आर नॉट अलाउड बिकॉज आपने फॉरेन करेंसी में लिया है एंड यू प्रेफर इट इन फॉरेन करेंसी, तो वो आपको बेनिफिट मिलता है 2.27% का। एक्चुअल आपकी कॉस्ट 4.73 आ रही है, अनलेस अंटिल यू आर गेटिंग, आपको यहाँ पे अप्रोक्सीमेटली 1% का गैप है। अगर आपको SOFR प्लस 50 के नीचे पीसीएफसी मिलता है देन यू आर एट ब्रेक इवन, और आपकी रुपी कॉस्ट इज 9%, अगर किसी की उससे कम है तो उसमें और कॉस्ट डिफरेंशियल आ जाएगा। अनलेस अंटिल दिस इज 9% रुपी कॉस्ट, आपको SOFR प्लस 50 के नीचे पैकिंग क्रेडिट फॉरेन करेंसी में मिलता है, देन इट इज बेनिफिशियल फॉर यू टू गो फॉर पैकिंग क्रेडिट इन फॉरेन करेंसी, अदरवाइज 7 years।
I would not.
PS no sir, PS
I would
banks
not like to tease you.
no
and I would not
I
like to
totally
tease you.
agree sir, मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ,
But
PSU
bankers are hard-nosed and absolutely, it's the only thing that works with bankers is your personal equation with the lady or the man dealing with.
सर आई गेस वो भी PSU में चलता है आपका, प्राइवेट बैंक में हाँ एज यू सेड दे टेक चांसेस।
The private banks में, the only thing that works with private bank is bullying them. Believe me, the moment you tell them you're talking BS, then they turn around and say, no, sir, but I didn't mean this. आपने वो अमिताभ बच्चन की पिक्चर देखी थी कि वो मुर्गे की हाइट उसने कहा इतनी थी, तो उसने कहा इतनी तो नहीं हो सकती मुर्गे की हाइट, उसने कहा पहले साहब दूसरा हाथ तो लगा लो, मुर्गे की हाइट इतनी थी. So this is exactly the point. So with private banks, it is bulldozing them. With PSU banks,
You can't do that.
it is wonderful to have a relationship.
Very true. Very true. And PSUs are quite transparent even on FX.
PSUs
That I have experience.
are transparent, but they are obviously.
हाँ मतलब अगर वो बोलते हैं 10 पैसा तो 10 ही है, 10 का 15 ही होगा, बट वो 10 के नीचे भी नहीं जाएगा.
Commitment is commitment. Is this for Credlex?
No.
Okay. This is for, because
Green
we
Light.
came a little late.
So it's for FX hedging.
Okay.
Right sir?
Thank you.
Thank you.
थैंक यू राजेंद्र जी, आपने बड़ा अच्छा टॉपिक कवर किया. यू हैव कवर्ड ऑलमोस्ट ऑल द एस्पेक्ट रिलेटेड टू आवर मेंबर एक्सपोर्टर्स. सो व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड इज रिड्यूसिंग द पोटेंशियल लॉस, राइट, एंड बिड एंड पुट ऑप्शन.
Basically, safeguarding your margins.
So thank you, sir. Thank you for giving the session. Now we'll move on to the next session by Mansvi Goelji, which is on the hedging. Oh, sorry, factoring. So factoring is one of the financial option which helps to maintain or help to have your capital liquidity, because you can sell your invoices or I will not talk on this length. So please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining here. It's great to be part of this, and with EPCH it's always a pleasure to do this.
I'm very sorry because this program is sponsored by his organization only, Credlex. Thank you.
Today we will be talking about factoring, and like Rajesh ji said, factoring is essentially a tool that helps exporters getting growth capital. So factoring is something, it is a very new terminology, particularly from India perspective. If I look at how other nations, one of our neighbors grew, this was one of the cornerstones through which they grew their exports business exponentially to developed economies. Right? So today, I would like to tell you a bit about our company, about the product, and how exactly it can help Indian exporters grow their exports. So before jumping into factoring, let me just talk about the company very briefly. So we are part of Moglix Group. Moglix is a $2.6 billion valued startup now, and one of our first investors were Mr. late Ratan Tata. His vision and his support has helped us grow from, we started in 2015. Now in 2024 we are 2,000 strong plus team members spread across 5 nations. So we have our team in India, we have 40 warehouses, 40 offices here. We have team in UAE, US, Mexico for helping with LATAM exports, and in Singapore. And few of the other stalwarts, like you can see Mr. Singhania from JK Group, they are also on our board. So Credlex is a company, we are the only private lender in India that is approved by RBI to have NBFC as well as a GIFT City entity in India. So GIFT City is a newer concept, you might know, there is this SEZ in Gujarat where Mr. Modi ji from government has pushed Indian banks to open their foreign branches. So it is treated as a foreign land within the India geography. So physically present in India, but treated as a foreign land. And in that foreign land, just like Hong Kong, there are banks, all international banks, international funders, international private equity players who are free from RBI's India regulation. They can operate as per the global regulations that are applicable across the globe. So it is a completely new concept, and we are the first private company there which has got the license from the regulator to operate as a factoring company. And of course, GIFT City has their ties with RBI in India. We have our entity, group entity, which is also an NBFC in India. So effectively, for all your requirements in INR or in Forex, we have entity which is approved by the Indian regulator. And speaking about our history, so we have worked with more than 1,000 exporters till now, and we have facilitated more than $500 million of trade through factoring. Yeah. So like I said, we are the first lender. We help on the export factoring bit. The factoring I will explain right after this. We also help exporters in securing import factoring. So if you have any import requirements, any of the raw material, capex, machinery, then with our entity you can get import factoring limits as well. And in addition to that, because of our NBFC, we can extend business loans for raw material purchases or any kind of capex within India itself. And so that's the extent of solutioning that we can do for an Indian exporter. So let me talk about the factoring as a product, right? When any exporter gets into the export business, what are the three primary risks from a financial perspective? It's a completely financial tool, factoring. So the first one is existing buyer. Any exporter has been working with a buyer for 2 years, 3 years, or maybe 4 years, right? Then we have a tendency that we build that inherent trust that payment will come on time. It has not happened since last 3-4 years. Why will it happen now or going forward, right? But we typically don't get that information on the performance of the buyer who is sitting outside India. We are in India, we don't know how is the financials, how is his sales picking up, whether his product is getting sold on time or not, whether clients are still buying from him or not. Some of the big names that has gone into bankruptcy this year, so there was this large retailer called Joanne, and then Big Lots, right? These are those two names which have been in the industry for more than, I would say, 4 to 5 decades. Right? There are many Indian exporters who were supplying them, who were working with them, and they always had their payments on time. But the laws in US are so flexible for a large retailer that they can get into bankruptcy and if their sales are not good. And we could get that information 6 months before because of our trade insurance partners. Right? So anyone who is here, he will not know a lot about it unless it is in news. But because we work with lenders and insurance partners in those countries, we get those preemptive signals and information beforehand. So we have, from our company perspective, we have a lot of EPCH affiliated exporters who are working with us. And we started giving them this information 5 to 6 months ago that any further orders on these two names, you should not, think of taking. So this is one of the primary risks when you have an existing buyer and you don't know whether that buyer is going to pay on time, will he continue with the same trend or not. The second biggest risk is adding a new buyer. When you are adding a new name to your list, is the buyer worthy enough to get credit from you? Right? Because effectively you are the manufacturer, you are making product. But is the buyer worthy enough so that you give him credit? That information is also very, very limited for our Indian exporters. Many times large corporates, so we work with enterprises which are listed on Indian Stock Exchange. They ask for buyer financials, that you first tell me your financial history before I give you credit. But in the handicraft industry, in the furniture industry, we have seen that many of the buyers do not share their financials. And Indian exporters have to rely on either word of mouth or local connects to assess whether the buyer is worthy of credit or not. And it is not only for developed geographies, but even for underdeveloped geographies like Latam, Egypt, Turkey, African continent. Indian exporters do not have a way to identify whether the new buyer is worthy enough to extend credit or not. We can get that information through our FCI partners in more than 400 countries for our exporter partners. Yes. So we have a dedicated team, right, who work with exporters. We factor their invoices. So I will also explain you about the process. So most of our exporters have monthly shipments. So every month we have a touch base, maybe twice in a month or thrice in a month. We also meet them in person, and there we can share this information. We have also done, just like with EPCH, we do a lot of seminars with other industrial bodies that focus on exports. So there also we provide such kind of information to our clients.
In case of a new buyer, how much time you will take to give us the information?
So it depends, sir. If it is a developed geography like US or Europe, you can get it within 3 days. If it is non-European geography, it could be Chile, Brazil, or Latam, then it takes about 15 to 20 days.
15 to 20 days.
Yes.
But same, our ECGC is doing the same also.
I agree, sir. ECGC also gives you that kind of information. So factoring as a product gets all the benefits of ECGC, plus you will actually get your money. So ECGC only gives you information and insurance coverage. We give you information, insurance coverage, as well as money.
No, factoring is the second part. First to start with a new buyer. For that we need the financial report of that.
Right.
So ECGC also give us a report of the financial.
Right.
And more information we can get it from D&B also. So how you are different from that?
So it's a, yeah. So I agree. There are other platforms also. We work with competitors of ECGC. So there are large European companies that provide insurance covers to European exporters. So we work directly with them. They have typically more information on non-US and non-European buyers. ECGC has limited information on those countries. So that's where we can add value, where you are looking for, it's a second source of information. It is just like having news channels. You have Ask Tak and then you have a Star, and you are getting news from two separate mediums. It's like that.
No, as an exporter, we are a member of ECGC. That's why this will be the second membership we are going to take to you.
Yes.
And that's why I'm asking.
Sure, sir, sure. And it's a very similar thing. It's just like ECGC, we can also get you that information just by knowing the legal name of the entity to which you are going to supply and the actual address which you are going to put on the. So there is no fixed charge as of now. Whatever clients work with us, this kind of service is absolutely free from them. We have.
Since last
Right,
5
sir.
years, since the inception of credits, we have never charged for these services.
That is a big discussion. More than what exactly.
It's a 5-year period now, we have never charged.
So we are a relatively new company, sir, and factoring as a concept, like I mentioned, right, GIFT City in itself is a very new concept. It has started by BJP government in last 7-8 years. So there is a lot of regulatory changes, reforms that has happened in India to give factoring actually a tool so that it can be used by majority of our MSME exporters. So large corporates, for example, Wellspun, Trident, who are big suppliers of Walmart or Target, they have always used factoring from foreign bankings like Citi, HSBC. But even for Indian banks to adopt factoring, that has only come into, I would say, picture for last 2-3 years.
We use it regularly with another name as
Drip.
So we are, much bigger and larger competitor of Drip, and from a factoring perspective, that is one of our products that is very similar. Now let me move to the third, which is the delayed payments piece. Right. So the third risk is when both of us two are clear that you have an existing buyer, you know the relationship, and you know that he is still credit worthy. And second is the new buyer. The third aspect is with the same buyer, what happens if the buyer delays the payment? You have been supplying to them for quite some time now, they are still credit worthy, but what happens when they delay the payment? Who is going to go outside India to recover products, payments from them? So that is also a risk that factoring covers. So factoring essentially takes over the collection risk of an Indian exporter, or for any matter for any exporter. We essentially come in as a collection agent for you, where we take the risk of collecting payments and of ensuring that buyer will make payment within a certain time frame. The only thing which factoring does not cover is the trade dispute or the quality of the merchandise which is supplied by the exporter. Because we are a purely financial institution and we can only help on the financial aspects. We have seen, and I will talk about factoring strategies as we move on to the next slide. There are a lot of companies that say that okay, we will factor it for you, but eventually they will come back to the exporter and say that now you have to give the money. We are unable to recover it from the buyer.
So I have a question. So understanding what you're trying to say is that factoring would be applicable post shipment.
Factoring is applicable post shipment.
So it's pretty much like bill discounting.
It is equivalent to bill discounting.
And bill discounting is not a new format in India. We've been doing it as exporters with various bigger buying offices who have arrangements with banks. In fact, not even buying offices, buyers who have arrangements with banks. And they take about 2% and they give you your payment straight away. I've had that personal experience with exactly. Like for example, Deutsche Bank with H&M. I'm giving you an example, just an example, right? Now, my other question to you would be that this services, the additional services that you're mentioning, you will be giving those when one factors an invoice with you, correct? Right.
Yeah.
That's what you don't charge for.
That's what we charge. Correct.
Thank you.
So, bill discounting, very rightly said, right? So there are 2-3 things which are different in factoring as compared to the bill discounting model which is available in India. So first of all, bill discounting versus factoring, the biggest difference is the collateral requirement. Right? Factoring as a product by any financial law across the globe is not considered as a debt. It is considered as early payment of your invoices. If you go to any CA or any auditor in India, they will consider discounting as a debt. No bank across the world will give you discounting without showing it on your balance sheet as a debt. Whereas factoring on the opposite side is a completely debt-free product. Whatever money or whatever invoices you are getting factored, no CA can put it on your balance sheet as debt. It is essentially an early accrual of your payments. So it will appear as cash. So that is the biggest difference. We have seen many of our exporters, and there is a slide after this which I will talk about, that how Indian exporters can leverage factoring to grow their business instead of raising new debt. Right? So that is the biggest difference. The second aspect of factoring is, and it is very similar to discounting, is it is digital and paperless. So you only have to submit the documents which are related to your shipping, which is your bill of lading and shipping bill and invoice. With just these 3 documents, you can actually avail factoring for your invoice. So some of the companies, they still look at the financials and everything because the trade dispute risk is still on the supplier.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
No. So what I think what he's trying to ask you is that with credit links, what we're specifically asking you is that you don't look at the financials and you're only concerned about the shipping bill, the PO in hand and the final invoice and packing list, correct? That's what you're concerned about?
So
and it's per PO.
So we as a company, we do look at the financials,
Right.
okay, but our financials do not, like the exporters' financials do not restrict us to give the factoring service. Okay. So if you have, so we have that's the first point, that we work with ECGC competitors. So we get credit report of those buyers to those companies. So only for the credit worthy buyer, right, we are able to extend factoring.
From what I could understand what he's saying, pardon my saying so, he was not very clear about it. There are people other than ECGC
Yes.
who are doing this activity overseas.
Absolutely.
And they are in touch with those European and American people who do the same as ECGC does. And they do not charge you, whereas ECGC charges you.
Right.
And they would give you that service free of cost.
And also, sir,
Is that what you are saying?
yes.
Absolutely, sir.
And
Yeah.
also adding to that, ECGC is sort of an insurance tool.
Yeah.
It's an insurance mechanism.
Yeah.
It's not an early payment mechanism.
Yeah, it is not.
This is pretty much similar to as bill discounting, where your early payment mechanism is involved here, while ECGC will never give you an early
No,
payment.
they will not give you
Exactly.
payment at
Payment
all.
actually this
They
they
will only
will
go
also
to
include criteria.
Yes.
One is ECGC
The
insurance
services
cover
also
plus
have
bill
insurance.
discounting like financing part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a combination of both.
Technically, so
technically factoring is equal to insurance plus
On paper.
It is actually, sir, so
Without recourse or with recourse?
So there are 3-4 options which are available. I will talk to you about those. So factoring in 99% of the cases is only done for buyers where insurance cover is available. Only for select few buyers where even insurance is not available, a factoring company can still do the factoring. So effectively, whatever is being factored, there is already an insurance that the factoring company has taken on the back end. And yes, that covers the point one where it is about buyer's credibility, that whosoever is the buyer, basis their credibility, we do the factoring or bill discounting in Forex. Right? So the other key difference which I think Mr. Rajendra also spoke about, that you can actually leverage the rates of foreign currency, which is if you are exporting to US, so it is USD linked. If you are exporting to Euro, then it is Euro linked. You can leverage the rates of that instead of relying on the INR rate. And there is a lot of difference today. It was not the case earlier in the year, but over the course of year, the difference has widened to more than 2 to 3%. He was able to grow his business by more than 50%. He did not avail any more loans from his existing banking or NBFC partners. Rather, he partnered with us for early payment of his invoices, which helped him with that growth capital, and he was able to take on more business with the existing buyers at a much better payment term.
Under UCTC DC 600 now, all LC are irrevocable. Okay, and as far as the Nigeria case,
not on a prime bank.
no, as far as the case of Nigeria, even in the case of not only Nigeria but other African countries, few more, Togo also and Benin also, we normally insist for the LC confirmed by the UK bank, not by the Nigerian bank, not by the same country. Confirmed bank should be some other country.
That is the point I was trying to
Yeah, not in the same country. So when we have LC, that is not a problem. No, otherwise also from our bank also.
Right.
If we have a LC, we are getting PC against LC. If I have taken 80% PC on the LC, will you give the factoring on that also? That was my question which we have started. If I have taken 80% PC on my order from forward about LC, suppose the order is not LC, DP order. So will you give me the factoring on that also?
So factoring, sir, is only applicable when you are exporting in open credit. So on LC backed exports, factoring is not allowed.
I'm talking about LC.
With PCFC, you can take factoring. So as soon as the goods leave from the Indian port, we will discount those invoices, we will give you the money, and you can then deposit that in
No,
PC.
sir, I'm still assisting the same question. I have a non-LC order,
Okay.
whether we can use the word DA or DP, okay.
Right.
I have taken against that order 80% PC from my bank, packing credit, production loan we can say, or to execute the order.
Right.
Now I have shipped the goods, I have all the documents.
Right, sir.
Now one option with me, I can go to my bank to bill discounting for the balance 20%, or I come to you for the factoring of that. Will you give the factoring also for that where I have already taken 80% from my bank?
Yes, sir, we can give you the factoring for that, because then that 80% automatically will go to your bank and you will only get 20%.
We will get 20% only. Not only 20%, even less than 10% only, because 10% is your margin factoring also.
Yes, sir. So 10% we will keep, but the 90% we give you that money, and we give you in the same account on which bank has given you that PCFC limit. So automatically bank will take away that 80% money.
In particular this case, if I come to you for the factoring, you are going to give me 10% only, not 20% even.
Sorry, sir, I would like to interrupt. What Manasvi is saying, so he is answering your question very well. So आपने 80% PC लिमिट लिया हुआ है PO के अगेंस्ट में. अभी आपका जो गुड्स है वो सेल कर गया है. सेलिंग के बाद आई एम गोइंग टू पे 90% ऑफ दैट इनवॉइस वैल्यू. माय बेंचमार्क इज 90%. So I fund 90% in your AD बैंक. उसी बैंक से आपने ऑलरेडी PC अवेल किया हुआ है वो PO के अगेंस्ट में. तो बैंक सबसे पहले अपना 80% या 70% सेटल ऑफ करेगा और उसके बाद जो पैसा बचा हुआ है वो आपके करंट अकाउंट में सेटल करेगा.
हाँ, तो उस केस में अगर मैं अपने बैंक से बिल डिस्काउंट कराता हूँ तो मुझे 100% बिल डिस्काउंट.
एग्जैक्टली. सो अभी वहाँ पे वही चीज बता रहा हूँ सर मैं. सो दैट इज बिल डिस्काउंटिंग. सो बिल डिस्काउंटिंग अगेंस्ट योर कोलैटरल्स एंड let me answer. Factoring में क्या है sir? Your goods are safe even if your buyer is not paying willingly, or the company is getting default at the other end. So in case of scenario other than
I'm coming on the practical. All people are here on the practical exporter. The moment we need the packing credit from our bank is asking for ECGC cover first. So ECGC cover is already there. To cover my risk as my individual exporter, I can take the second risk also from DNB and all that, to confirmation of the buyer and all that, whether need or not. So even for the post shipment also, bill discounting, my documents are going to be documents are complete and correct. Bank is open to discount those documents also. Why he bother about the other things also, and the ECGC there also. For bank has already taken the ECGC from to give me the loan also.
तो सर इसके लिए मैं आपको आंसर दे देता हूँ दैट फैक्टरिंग इज टेक्निकली अ ग्रोथ टूल. तो अगर आप इट इज अ ग्रोथ टूल, ग्रोथ. तो अगर आपका अच्छा ठीक है,
ठीक नहीं चल रहा है.
तो फैक्टरिंग में देखिए सर डिफरेंस ये है कि अगर आप मान लीजिए महीने का 10 करोड़ आप एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, एंड फॉर दैट इफ यू हैव सफिशिएंट वर्किंग कैपिटल लिमिट फ्रॉम योर बैंक, आपको फैक्टरिंग की जरूरत नहीं पड़ी. आप अगर ग्रो कर रहे हैं, अगर आपने एक महीने 10 करोड़ किया है, अगले महीने आपने 15 करोड़ किया है, उसके अगले महीने आप 20 करोड़ कर रहे हैं, आपका बैंक आपको इतनी जल्दी वर्किंग कैपिटल लिमिट इंक्रीज करके नहीं देगा. तब आपको हेल्प करेगी फैक्टरिंग कंपनी. अगर आपका बैंक आपके लिए आपकी वर्किंग कैपिटल लिमिट इंक्रीज कर रहा है, तो आपको बैंक के अलावा किसी और के पास नहीं जाना पड़ेगा. That is a fact, sir. And इसलिए we also don't pitch to anyone that you replace factoring with your existing banking limits. कोई भी हमारा एक्सपोर्टर ऐसा नहीं है कि वो बैंक से लिमिट लेके, मतलब बैंक के लिमिट्स रिप्लेस कर रहे हैं फ्रॉम अस. ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं. Additional, it is additional. Second, there are certain cases where they are unable to get that from banks, but they go and take it from an Indian NBFC, which is costing them higher. किसी को 15% पे, किसी को 16% पे, किसी को 18% पे इमीडिएट 60 डेज के लिए, 90 डेज के लिए पैसा चाहिए होता है, तो दे गो टू NBFCs वेयर वी कैन गिव दैट एट 10 और 11% बिकॉज आपने एक्सपोर्ट किया हुआ है, आपके पास वो डॉक्यूमेंट्स इन हैंड है. तो देयर आर दीज टू डिफरेंसेस वेयर वी एक्सप्लेन टू द कस्टमर्स दैट यू डोंट कंपेयर अस विद अ बैंक. इट इज अ अल्टरनेट सॉल्यूशन टू योर वर्किंग कैपिटल नीड्स. If bank is able to meet your needs, then sir, frankly there is no need of getting into any kind of factoring, which many of you might have heard and might have availed also in some sense. In this particular case, what happens is that when the factor is ready to give you money against a buyer, then they take the entire responsibility of collection from that buyer, and it is a completely non-recourse facility, which means that even if the buyer does not pay or makes a delayed payment, there will be no loss to the supplier, which is essentially an Indian exporter. So that is the advantage of this is, if you are not getting an ECGC cover or you are not getting goods information on the buyer, but a factoring company is ready to give that limit to you, then you should go and take it, because then your money is secured by the factoring company. The only con for this is because traditional methods are not available. This is slightly higher than what you would get from a factoring company. The second option, which many of the exporters avail, is recourse-based factoring. What this means is that an exporter says that I am going to take ownership of getting the money from the buyer, because I know that the buyer is really, really good. It could be TJX group of companies, it could be Ashley. You say that why should I look at ECGC or any kind of risk cover, because those are some of the biggest retailers and doing really well. So there you can say that you take out the recourse element, non-recourse element from the factoring and give that limit or give that financing to me at a cheaper rate. And that's the second approach that you can take, where you say that in case TJX does not pay, then I know that it is my fault, because I might have made something in the either the shipment might have got lost or it might have damaged or quality of goods would not be as per the requirement. So I am ready to take that risk. Remaining, I have no issue in TJX payment history. I am very comfortable. You give me a discount and give me a recourse based factor. That's the second approach that you can take. The third approach, which is slightly newer and it is done very recently, is selective factoring. In selective factoring, typically for the first two approaches, when you are looking at non-recourse or recourse factoring, the entire shipments or the entire exports that you send to a particular buyer, all of those are factored. Each and every invoice is factored. If you send 10 shipments, 20 shipments or 2 shipments, all of those are factored by the factoring company. Whereas in the third approach, which is a selective factoring company, you can say that I don't need factoring for all the shipments. I don't need that much money. I don't have that much working capital requirement. I might need it only for 2 or 3 of my invoices because that's the immediate requirement that I need. And in those cases, a good factoring company can help you even for selective factoring, where they say that, okay, we understand your business cycle, we understand your company health, and we can give you factoring only on the invoices which you want. It could be a higher ticket size, it could be a lower ticket size, but there is a processing fee involved and they give you only for those invoices. The fourth approach, which is called tri-party factoring. So in the first 3 approaches, the factoring company essentially is acting alone, right? There is no other partner. In the fourth approach, which is tri-party factoring, there is a factoring company which is on the exporter side, and then there is a factoring company on the importer side, which is the buyer. And both of them are making an exchange. So from an exporter perspective, he is getting into an agreement with 2 factoring companies, hence tripartite factoring. In this case, what happens is that export factoring company will take risk on the exporter side, which is the trade dispute or the quality issue, whereas the import factoring company will take risk on the payment of the buyer. He will evaluate or they will evaluate the worthiness of the buyer, and then they will say that, okay, I will take that risk on my books. So export factor will sell their invoices or sell their assets to the import factor. And this is one of the most, I would say, widely accepted strategy. Even we are part of FCI. FCI is a global consortium which constitutes of factoring companies across 400 countries in the globe. So across those countries, there are an import factor, there is an export factor. So we become the export factor in India, and we have a corresponding import factor in Egypt, in Chile, in Peru, who takes the risk on the buyer side. And the fifth one is full turnover factoring. So this is very similar to the full turnover ECGC concept, where the factoring company says that I will not look at individual credibility of your buyers, rather I will look at the entire portfolio. If that portfolio is 60 to 70% insured, 60 to 70% doable, then I will give you factoring on the remaining 30 to 40% of your portfolio.
Are you trying to say that in that case you would accept a joint and a record bill also?
In certain cases, yes. So for some of our clients, we do full turnover factoring. So for those specific buyers, it is considered as recourse led, wherein we will only extend the money, but non-payment risk is on the exporter. So this is useful for someone who has large export, reliance on the turnover, and they need capital even for a combination of buyers. Any questions on any of these before I move on?
What is forfeiting?
So forfeiting, sir, is a very similar word to factoring. It is 100% non-recourse. Yes, and for forfeiting, once the goods or the invoices are sold, then even the trade dispute aspect is not, it does not get triggered. Forfeiting is only done by banks, and that too for corporates which are, I would say, $1 billion plus. So those are large forfeiting programs across the globe. With the gift city coming in place, we are seeing some of the large US banks like Citi and HSBC coming into picture in India and give forfeiting for some of the large European and US retailers. Some of the trends that we wanted to share about the upcoming scenario for next year. So USD rate, which is SOFR, as also spoken earlier in the session today, it has fallen from the high of 5.3%. So it was peak in June this year, and now it has gone down to 4.3%. So there is an immediate benefit of 1% that you can avail if you go for factoring in foreign currency, particularly with USD. Similarly, for Europe, it is Euribor, and Euribor has fallen from a peak of 4.5 earlier in the year to 2.8. So you can actually avail a benefit of 1.7% on your European or Euro denominated exports from a factoring company. The second trend that we are seeing is the inventory issue resolution. So many of the US retailers or buyers had built up a lot of inventory post-COVID because of the excessive demand. So those are getting cleared now, and it is across the sectors, whether it is retail or industrial or chemical. All of those inventories are getting depleted. Many of the large buyers were very conservative. Now they are returning back to their normal buying again, which we see will increase demand. And third, I mean, sure, all of you are aware that there is a lot of policy push. There is a lot of support at a global level where everyone is focusing on Make in India. There is large strategic push at at Quad level where people are promoting China Plus One strategy, where they are looking for alternate sources, alternate nations where they can build their supply chains to decouple from China. We are seeing a lot of this, particularly for our apparel exporters, particularly after the Bangladesh crisis, and also in the chemical sector. There are, with of course the tailwinds, there are also the risks to consider. Right? First one is the trade barrier. There was an era of globalization in 1990s, early 2000s, where all the developed economies said that globalization is good for the globe. We should look and work and partner with other nations. And now that has actually turned into protectionism. Everyone is looking to build manufacturing within their own countries. They are adding tariffs, they are bumping up duties on imports. US in particular has put a lot of tariffs and imports on Chinese imports. So that is actually sort of changing the balance from a global trade perspective. Then there are a lot of geopolitical risks. Right? We have Middle Eastern conflicts, we have conflicts which are going on in Ukraine, Russia. We are looking at container availability issues, supply chain issues for Indian exporters. So that is also causing a lot of risks in terms of when people are considering, should I order from a country which takes 60 days for them to deliver the goods to me, or should I order it from someone which is sitting next to me like Mexico, where I can get it at a higher rate but within the 7 days period without any disruption. So Mexico office for us is actually looking to diversify the geopolitical risk, where we have a lot of clients who are exporting to US but through trucks. So there is effectively no risk or dependency on shipping lines or on containers. And third is of course the US budget or federal cuts. The US of course is one of the biggest drivers of international trade, and the way they are breaching their debt ceilings, the way they are forcing others to open local manufacturing units, their budget cuts are expected on import side. Clients which have a longer tenure with us, we actually factor invoice value up to 95% of the shipment. So traditionally, all the other factoring companies would probably restrict to 80, 85 or 90%, but we go up to 95% when we have sufficient history with the exporter on their creditworthiness and the quality of their supplies. In addition to that, we do pre-shipment also. So many of the exporters, they get large orders and their packing credit limits from banks get full, right? They need more. Therein, through our NBFC in India, we can give them pre-shipment credit either in terms of raw material purchase or in terms of any of the other capex requirements that they might have. So that will give additional cushion for exporters to prepare the order and ensure timely delivery. Yes, sir, we look at that, right? Because as I said, it is always considered as an additional tool. We do not or we cannot actually replace the limits given by the banks.
What is the interest rate on and for what minimum duration you are charging?
So duration as such is not criteria for us. It depends on the tenure of your working capital cycle. You could avail it for 60 days, 90 days, 45 days, 30 days as per your requirement. Interest rates from factoring perspective, we go somewhere between 10 to 11%. And for large customers who are, let's say, discounting up to $4-5 million a month, we also go up to 9% per annum. Yes, which is, I would say that very lower than what you would get from alternate sources in India.
Any other hidden charges like processing fee?
There is no processing fee. It's only one fee of interest that whatever amount you take from us, the interest cost includes everything.
How is the amount from the PC?
So we don't do PCFC kind of limit.
On pre-shipment.
Pre-shipment, we do typically fund up to 50% of the PO value.
And what is the rate?
Rate varies from 10 to 11% per annum. And many of our clients are actually MSME clients, right? So typically MSMEs do not get that kind of rates from banks. So that's the advantage that we bring. Whereas a large exporter like Trident would be enjoying 9.5 from bank, but our partners who are 20-25%, 20-25 CR is their total revenue, they do not get that kind of rate. So we are still able to give them similar rates. And with our NBFC, we can also do import factoring. So one of our partners in Jodhpur, right, for his exports, he is importing cables from China or Vietnam because they have a requirement from a US buyer that they need to install it in the furniture that they export. So even for those imports, we can help them on getting those funds because they are associated with us on the export factoring. So they don't need to go to bank, avail a very complex product which is buyer's credit, which takes a lot of things into account, which includes hedging, looking at the Forex and forwards, and instead they can go for a factoring piece which is very, very similar to export factoring, very linear product, and it can be availed on invoice to invoice basis. And with our NBFC, of course, there are other products which are available, like term loans, business loans for 3 years, 9 months, short tenure as well. This I will skip. I think we have discussed a lot on this. There are few other things that we help our exporter clients with, particularly because of our presence as the Moglix Group. So we help some of our exporters keep their inventory in our US and UAE warehouses. Many of the times we have seen that Indian exporters want to get orders where buyers are insisting on keeping inventory within the country. So we have established 2 warehouses, one in New Jersey, another one in Houston is coming up, where we can give space on demand to our partners for keeping their inventory. And we see that that is a very big challenge for many of our exporters to get that requirement in a short time. The second thing that we help with is in-transit insurance, marine insurance. So we have partnered with ICICI Lombard to help get good rates on marine shipments of our Indian exporters. So you can get that within our group policy. With that, we are actually able to factor your DDP exports, which is essentially the export where the duty or the buyer liability only starts when they receive the material in their warehouse. Majority of the factoring companies will only factor your shipments which are FOB. That means that the handover has happened on an Indian port. Whereas with our insurance policy, if you come with us, we can actually give you factored product for DDP or CIF shipment. That means that buyer has not taken the charge of the inventory or the goods, but still we have given the payment to you with our insurance place, because we know that it will get delivered and it will get handed over to the buyer. That's an additional advantage that many of our Indian exporters take.
What are the services you give on the
Warehousing,
warehousing?
we have a full stack servicing. We actually have partnered with two of the large warehousing companies on the US and UAE front. So they can pick up the material from the port, respective port, break it into pallets. If it is already pallets, then they can keep the pallets, dispatch the pallets. They can also break down the pallets into smaller e-commerce shipments if that is the requirement. So it is a combination of both e-commerce as well as bulk shipment. And in cases if it is a direct shipment, they can take up that container from the port and put it directly into the buyer's warehouse. Yeah, so that's about it. Very briefly, wanted to talk about our company, our work, what we have been doing. So very recently we did a similar, partnership and session with PO. Dr. Ajay Sai was there and we explained how the factoring can help Indian exporters, particularly on the engineering and chemical side. And our founder, Mr. Rahul Garg, he has been a very well-known name in the industry. He is also CII chairman. So our company has been mentioned by Mr. Raghuram Rajan, ex-RBI governor, in his book, Breaking the Mold. So he has recognized the efforts done by our company and he has called it out in his book. These are few of the accolades that our company has received from Forbes, from EP, Deloitte, and few other industrial associations within India. So that's it. I would like to thank you all. And if there are any questions, then I am here. We have Nishant from my team and few other members who can answer questions for you regarding that.
I just need one tip from you.
Yes, sir.
Like you said, you are well aware about the next 6-month activity and all that. What do you say about this dollar rate in the next 6 months? Because the new government is coming there.
Right.
Because recently, yesterday only,
There was a
Iran is devalued now. So I'm affected for that also. That's why I'm asking. So what do you want to say about this?
So from a US Fed rate, sir, it has already reduced by 100 bips this year. There have been 3 corrections already. After Trump administration, the commentary that Fed gave day before yesterday, they are not looking to reduce the rate further for at least another 1 quarter. So before March 2025, you might not see any further rate reduction on the dollar rate. So whatever you are getting today, it will continue to be applicable for another 3 months as of now. Post that, we are expecting in the entire year 50 bips reduction in 2025. So today the rate is about 4.3. We are expecting it to go down to 3.8 USD dollar by end of next year. The same time next year, probably it will be coming together again talking about this product at a lower rate. So we do a lot of this in parallel. So evaluating the buyer will happen on day 1. At the same time, we will also look at your financials and do a quickly glance that are there any kind of, let's say, delinquencies or any NCLT or any other case where there has been any reporting in the Indian Bureau. Once those are all clear, then within 3-4 days, you can get onboarded even if the buyer is not credit worthy. You can then send in another buyer and get it evaluated.
Is there a turnover gap or something with?
No, we work with exporters who are doing 5 CR annually to 5,000 CR annually.
Yeah, because I had contacted one of the companies, I don't remember, this is like a few months back, and they said that their cap is 25 CR, which our buyer in fact told us that you contact this particular.
Because this
Okay.
buying office actually started
telling us that there's a customer and they're going to be their payments are now going to be from 30 days to 60 days.
90 days.
In fact, yeah, 90 days.
Okay.
Achha.
And
Randomly we just got an email from
just an
them.
email.
Got it.
Expanding how double the
Yeah.
You know that expanding word is a little scary because you don't know what's in the books.
Yeah.
Really.
Absolutely.
So that's why we're asking you and we're trying to get our information out of you. that
Sure. So
what's
we
the-
can check it. That's not a problem, right? The only caveat that I would want to call out is that we
35 days.
Yeah, drip it is.
only
Drip is
work
25
with
days.
manufacturers. So typically manufacturers
अच्छा,
don't
सुनो।
do a small turnover.
पवन
They
था,
do
उसके वो sample
3-4
अगर
CR
sample गया
annually.
है वो।
We don't work with merchant trade.
अरे वो लड़का पवन नहीं था हमारे वहाँ दुबई में काम नहीं करता है यार कैसी बातें करते हो
So with merchant traders, sir,
तो मैं दे
the
दिया।
risk on the quality of goods
कितने
is very high.
किस चीज़ से 160 पे है
Yes, I understand, but we have had experiences in the past where we have then defined this policy that we will not work with
How
merchant
do you
trade.
identify
कितने
that?
पीसेस लाए
If,
We will
for
look at
example,
your
someone
balance.
is an
सिर्फ दो।
MSME exporter.
किसको दूंगा
In
मैं
that
ये
case,
बताना
you're
जरा।
going to identify who's a merchant exporter and who's a MSME exporter.
Yeah, yeah,
How
so
do you-
it is a
how do
very,
you identify?
so we have a mandatory factory
इसको
visit
निकाल दो
in all the clients that we onboard.
Yeah, you didn't mention that. So
Yeah.
you said 5 days and now you're saying there's a.
Yeah, so we have 40 offices in India.
We sign a agreement, so that this
Yeah.
factoring
मैं
agreement
कह रहा हूँ
which
अभी
we
मैं
sign with the
क्लास में
seller
लगा
in
हूँ
India.
Exactly.
So we
Post
have,
that only we can give the money.
and we have 40 offices in India, right? So we have a person who's stationed in
Yeah,
Jodhpur.
but that should have been mentioned.
In English it is called fine print. In English it is called fine print.
So I'll just summarize the entire process. Seller in India shares the buyer details with Credlinks. We verify that buyer that it is workable or not. If it is workable, then we ask for specific documents like your financials, the buyer's ledger of last 1 year or 2-3 months, whatever is the tenure. Once that have been audited or seen by my finance team, then we move ahead with the factoring agreement with the seller in India and Credlinks. Once the agreement is signed, we share a NOA with you, which is our notice of assignment. It carries our bank details. You need to send that NOA to your buyer, informing him as a courtesy that from X cutoff date, we have entered into a factoring arrangement with Credlinks and all our invoices will carry assignment clause of Credlinks, and you need to pay on the due date in this particular bank account. So that letter says this. Once that letter has been accepted over the email by buyer that they don't have any issue in paying to Credlinks, we fund the transaction. So this entire process takes 5 working days for us because today, since in last 5 years we have evaluated more than 12,000 buyers till now, and we are already funding for more than 2,400 buyers with various factories. So we have a pre-approved pool, we have a pre-rejected pool as well. So if in case you are sharing your buyers, so if I talk about the handicraft industry, we are working with more than 130 odd exporters who are into this space of handicrafts industry in various cities, Saharanpur, Moradabad, Jodhpur, Jaipur and other geographies. So and most of the times buyers are particularly common. I have seen very less time that some new buyer is coming. So it's more or less those similar names which keep on popping up, and we have the answer readily available. So it takes us just an hour to get back to the exporter and tell him that this buyer is approved or rejected. There are times when we take some time to go back and check. So for example, if some of the exporters says me that I have this X buyer for which I want to avail factoring, and I have a business of 12 CR with them for a year, and I also foresee a good volume of business. And in my system, it was rejected 4 months back. So as a factoring company, every quarter we keep on checking these particular buyers. But since the request has come, so I will go back and check the limits on that particular buyer again. So these things we keep on doing it. Beyond that, if you are working with us and for example you have given us 4 of your buyers for the factoring and we are already working with you, every quarter we share a credit report with you for your buyers, what Manasvi told. We keep on evaluating our buyers and we keep on telling you every quarter on quarter how is the financial health of your buyer particularly. So for example, Manasvi mentioned that regarding Joanne or that big lots. So we already informed our exporters, although very few exporters take those things on a serious note because there are compulsions, they have orders in hand, they have to do their turnovers also. And today only I informed one of my existing exporter in Delhi. He is also a handicraft exporter and a large one actually. And they big lots owe them $250,000. So when they heard about this news, he just told me in the morning only that Nishant, what needs to be done. I told him that sir, they are planning to shut down. You can file your claim. So these all are the information which we give 6 months, 4 months, 9 months prior to the things happening versus any Indian insurance company will give you this information with a lag. So for example, I'll just quote, there was a company in the apparel category, Stock J Boutique Jennifer in France. So one of my apparel supplier in India for which we were doing factoring for that buyer in Noida. So the buyer filed for receivership on 21st of June in 2023. We got that information. We told that exporter that the buyer has filed for receivership. Any day they can move into default thing. The supplier was very proactive and within next 3 days he was in Paris to meet the buyer and he was the only exporter to get that money back. So, and even ECGC was not aware of that. ECGC was giving insurance coverage for all the shipments which were in transit, which were already there, and we told them in advance, and that's the reason he was able to get his 1.1 million euro back. And he was the only supplier. Another supplier of the same particular buyer in Tirupur couldn't get his money.
That is correct.
But why can't we share this information with EPCA so that we can be members in large and get this information?
Yeah, obviously. So this is what our partnership with EPCH is about. So we will keep on sharing these insights
share
with
that
EPCH.
information can be circulated to members.
Yeah, we do it. In fact, one of the buyers defaulted with our exporter in Kolkata. It's a US-based importer, Kentex Imports INC. We got them blacklisted in Tirupur through the tea association with the help of Mr. Shaktivel and through the FIO as well. So we have taken the help of various organizations for getting that particular buyer blacklisted. And this is the reason the other day that particular buyer wrote me a message on WhatsApp that you have spoiled my reputation. And that particular importer has defaulted almost $1,20,000 for that particular. You cannot publish all those 8,000 names or 9,000 names that you don't have to work with.
No, specific to the handicraft.
But every time an exporter comes to us with their list, they propose us 6 buyers that Nishant, yes, I am looking for factoring for these 6 buyers.
Right.
Can you tell me the credit worthiness? Or they even tell me that Nishant, can you tell me credit worthiness of these 6 buyers? Because I want to go factoring for 2 of these. Because no one is going to factor all their buyers. So we work on that. We tell you that out of these 6, 2 buyers are credit worthy and these 4 are not credit worthy. And we will also tell you the reason. So sometimes it's a poor debtor quality of the particular buyer for which the buyer gets rejected. Sometimes there are a lot of payment delays and a recent payment default has been traced by my insurer. And when Manasvi has quoted that we work with some global insurers across the globe, so these insurers are typically either trade insurers or some large banks present in US and European geography. And these buyers have some or the other kind of relationship with these particular banks, and these banks give us insurance cover. So that is the reason we have a handy information on their credit worthiness as compared to any India-based insurance company. We will have a better hand on the buyers.
Just to add what Nishant was saying, last month for one of the buyers which was bought over by a private equity, no insurance company, ECGC or any other company was willing to take the risk. Through the supplier, we spoke to the finance team of the buyer, got their financials and got 10 million worth of limit approved from our insurance partner. So even if the insurance limit is not there, we can work with the exporter, talk to the finance company of the buyer and get the financials to get limits approved. And we are now doing it for one buyer in Chile and another buyer in Argentina.
By the way, there are some very, very potential and good buyers in Chile, Peru,
Absolutely.
and some of these countries.
So pharma is one of the sectors that we work with.
You are talking about handicap.
Okay.
I am purely talking about my experience with it.
We can get limits on those buyers. You will not have to.
We are already working with two suppliers in Panipat for their buyers in Chile.
My question about the virtual account still remains unanswered.
So virtual account in our case is not applicable.
Let me take it.
Yeah.
So virtual accounts are typically, if you are getting a virtual account from any of the partners, that is feasible because it's still your account, right? What we have seen is any virtual account, you will need to receive money in dollars or in foreign currency, right? And any entity or any bank will not let you open that virtual account because you will not have an entity outside India. Indian entity cannot have an account in USD or Euro outside India.
Compliance wise practically possible नहीं है. हम लोगों ने कोशिश किया ये चीज. मैं आपको एग्जांपल लेता हूँ. So
I'll give you the example.
Yeah.
In the case of big lots, prime revenue was their factor, authorized factor, and he was interested to open a virtual account for me in Hong Kong, and he said that it is allowed as per the Indian laws.
मैं आपको एग्जांपल दे देता हूँ इसमें. So as Manasvi told, we have a NBFC license also, and we fund lot of exporters in India through the pre-shipment side as well. So PO आता है, मैं pre-shipment देता हूँ INR में अपनी NBFC से. Then मैं जब FCR या BL आ जाता है तो I pay the exporter in dollars through my Singapore और US entity factoring कर रहा हूँ. It's a win-win situation for me. अगर मैं एक्सपोर्टर के लिए एक एस्क्रो अकाउंट खोल दूं और वहाँ पे मैं डॉलर में पेमेंट करूं और मेरा जो 40% या 50% मैंने एनबीएफसी वाला पैसा दिया था वो मेरी एनबीएफसी को चला जाए. ये मॉडल अगर होता है हमारे लिए पॉसिबल कंप्लायंस वाइज तो हम सबसे पहले इसको कर रहे होते सर. आरबीआई इस चीज को अलाउ नहीं करता है, इसलिए हम ये प्रोडक्ट को ठीक से एप्लीकेबल नहीं बना पा रहे हैं. जो मॉडल मैंने बताया आपको, ये तो मेरे लिए तो ये बिल्कुल बहुत अच्छा है प्रोडक्ट है.
सर सिर्फ सर्विस कंपनीज के अलाउड है अंडर जीएसपी रेगुलेशन. उसके अंदर टिकट साइज इज टिपिकली लेस देन 20,000. तो अगर आपका मतलब सर्विस कंपनीज में क्या होता है, वी प्रोवाइड कंसल्टिंग सर्विसेज. देयर आर लॉट ऑफ टेक्नीशियंस, मार्केटिंग पीपल जिनके 5,000 10,000 डॉलर्स के इनवर्ड्स आते हैं, तो उनके लिए इट इज एप्लीकेबल. अभी गिफ्ट सिटी के अंदर दे हैव स्टार्टेड अ न्यू लाइसेंस फॉर दिस व्हिच इज अंडर प्रोसेस. उसके अंदर आप यू बीइंग एन इंडियन एंटिटी यू कैन ओपन एन अकाउंट इन गिफ्ट सिटी. वो भी इसी साल ऑथराइज किया आपने.
Open an account in this.
Yes. And that will be a US or Euro denominated.
So I think all the queries are resolved, and thank you Mr. Goel for conducting and having this session, very good session, and I hope all the participants will benefit from this. So we should clap. And before we end, we have Mr. Ravi Sharan ji, management consultant. He will throw some light on our new program which we are coming up on the Advanced Management Development course.
Hi, good evening. I have been an exporter with EPCH since 1994. I have worked in the corporate sector after a degree in management, Sri Ram College of Commerce, FMS, and so on and so forth. So totally I have an experience of 43 years, and that experience along with the export experience has propelled me to talk to EPCH about conducting a management advanced training program for exporters, because there are a lot of spheres which I thought, first of all, with no offense meant to the exporters are hands down people. They have a tremendous amount of experience, probably more than anybody else in any field, when it comes to their being able to sell and export and import and do the things, but they do not have the conceptual knowledge of the management tools that are available, and therefore EPCH has very kindly proposed a 3-day advanced management program which is to be held on 16th, 17th and 18th January 2025. It is going to be held in this very venue, and I want to tell you about the uniqueness of this program. With almost 30 years of exports under my belt and with additional 13 years of the corporate experience where I worked for, I joined after FMS, I joined the company called Garwari Paints as executive assistant to MD there, and that was an extremely enriching and rewarding experience, because when you are working with the MD, and very soon he sort of adopted me as a foster son. And when you got into an activity like that, you were actually able to travel all over the country and see. And then the next job I did was another wonder job, Electrolux, called Eureka Folks, where I was responsible for their product management and development of numerous products. And then I worked for about 2 years with Xerox. So with that kind of a multifarious experience, and I'm not only talking about myself, what this program would entail is, I think all of you are aware of Mr. Vishal Dhingra, who is the chairman of BAA. He is going to be his prime concern has always been that with the emerging legal complications and the requirements in the European world more than anywhere else, also America, but Europeans tend to be a little more, shall we say, stuck up, if I may say so very politely, about a lot of legal requirements which they do not do for their own firms, but they do it for all the third world countries. So therefore, Mr. Vishal Dhingra, who is also a very close friend, is going to be talking about this topic. And there is a very well-known buying agent of our fraternity called Rachna Singh. She used to be working for Tier 1 Imports for many, many years. Before that, she was with Christine Rai. She is going to be talking about a lot of these buying agent aspects. Mrs. Savina Sharan, we as an export firm called Artifacts India have won from EPCH and from Germany Design Award. We have won awards for 10, 12, 15 years. We've been the largest exporter in our category for 10, 12, 15 years. So with all those experiences, my designer wife, we started as a team of I being an entrepreneur. And as I fondly say, she is the designer and I am the bullshitter. But jokes apart, she is going to be talking about what does she feel that the designing concepts need to be imbibed with our buyer. What do they expect out of us? And then Rachna ji is going to talk about what they expect from the exporters. And then there are going to be a whole lot of other, there's a GST expert who's going to talk about the export GST aspects. There is a very renowned, very well experienced human relations expert who's going to talk about a whole lot of human relations aspects. And we're also going to talk about the URS is going to talk about what we need for compliance point of view. And then Mr. Rajesh Rawat, a very well-known name in our listing, is going to be talking about DGFT. And we are covering a whole lot of, I have also tried to cover some very relatively unknown aspects in the export industry. So, we are talking about proactive management skills. I'm going to take a full 1 hour session on why do products fail. We are going to talk of flowchart analysis, because eventually everything, one of my favorite topics is PERT, CPM and bottleneck. PERT is path evaluation review technique. CPM is the critical path method. Whenever you find a path evaluation review technique, when you resume, when you understand what is the flow that a production process is taking, then you find that there is a critical path. And unless you control that critical path, you are in deep shape. So there is that path evaluation review technique, there is critical path, and there is a bottleneck. If you ever traveled to Dholakua a few years back before this clover leaf was made, you had to wait at the red light for 25 minutes to 30 minutes to 35 minutes. So that was typically a bottleneck. And in FMS, our Professor Dr. B.S. Narang used to talk about this bottleneck. And I think this is a very important part in management. So we're going to talk about organizational structure, we're going to talk about flowchart, we're going to talk about lead identification, niche product life cycle, why do products fail, proactive management skills, assessing orders. So there are a lot of things that then we are also going to talk about things like transactional analysis. I don't know how many of you are aware about transactional analysis as to there are 4 ego states out of which we all operate, right? Then we are going to, the human relations, interpersonal aspects, of course CTPAT, SEDEX, BSCI, suggested for. Over the last 30 years, I have made an export manual, which to me is the skeleton of everything that we do. And for example, fund flow, cash flow analysis in finance. It is not a profitability statement. Fund flow is a very important resource that lets you know where are the funds coming from and where are they going and are you falling short. So, for example, that is one of the things that we are going to talk about, suggested formats. And all these sessions are going to have a role play session. The biggest thing that I found in my life was that when you act as a buying agent, your voice is totally different, your stance is totally different. When you act as an exporter, your stance is totally different. So when you conduct a typically 1 hour role play session in which for 10 minutes you are a buying agent and for the next 10 minutes you are the production chap, for the next 10 minutes you are the finance guy, and for the last 10 minutes you are the buying agent's merchandiser, where you're going to screw the hell out of everybody there. And for the last 10 minutes you are then the merchant of the exporter. So this is what this 3 days program is going to talk about. I was told that exporters do not want to spend money on any management development program. So, well, that is entirely your choice. This program with 3 lunches, 6 teas, this is going to be the venue. The cost of the venue is only costing 7,000 rupees. Now, if you're going to scrounge upon 7,000 rupees, then very frankly, that is your funeral. I cannot do anything about that. If you want some sort of a development, if you want to grow in life, there is no free lunch. The American phrase is there is no free lunch. And you want to take that, you take that, you want to leave that, you want to leave that. I am not getting even a rupee out of this, nor is EPCS getting anything out of this. But we are all, Dr. Rakesh Kumar and Verma ji are very passionate about this program, and so are everybody else who is involved with this. There are a few of these flyers available. You're welcome to have a look at any of these flyers, and you're welcome to enroll. So I just thought I was asked to give this and communicate this to you.
अपनी जो एक्सपीरियंस मैं भी बताना चाहता हूँ कि I was not from Delhi. I was from Chandigarh when I came in 1980. I worked as a loader in one factory, garment factory in Okhla, in 400 rupees. उसके बाद कई बार मजबूरियां होती हैं, यानी कि माय फादर वाज IPS इन चंडीगढ़। एक छोटा सा कमरा था, उसके अंदर हम 4 बाई 6 फीट के 6 लड़के सोते थे एंड आई पेड 50 रुपीज। ऐसे नहीं थे, वो तंदूर में 1 रुपए की चपाती दाल फ्री। सो दिस इज हाउ वी वर्कड। Luckily, within 11 months or 12 months, we started this export business. And उसके अंदर राकेश, उससे पहले नवरत्न जी, तो हमारा कोई लिंकअप हुआ। क्या आप सोच सकते हैं कि वी आर फाउंडर ऑफ टुडे। ड्यूरिंग माय फर्स्ट टेन्योर एज ए चेयरमैन, वी स्टार्टेड फेयर। एग्जीबिशन क्यों लगाई किसी को भी पता नहीं। क्यों हमने ये इतना बड़ा मार्ट जो 60 एकड़ में बनाया, 4 लाख स्क्वायर मीटर क्यों बनाया है? सबसे पहले मैं आपको रीजन बताता हूं, जब सिर के ऊपर चोट आती है तब आदमी कहता है बैंडेज बांधो। आज सारी जनरेशन लकी हो कि हम लोग जैसी ट्रेन के अंदर सैंपल्स लेके जाते थे यूरोप, तो उन दिनों ये यूरोप नहीं होता था, उन दिनों एक एक अलग अलग कंट्री में वीजा लगाना पड़ता था। और when these people they saw our passport, India, okay come, क्या चीज़ है? बैग के अंदर सैंपल्स हैं, we have a permission, no 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 no। कोई अच्छा हुआ तो कहता था ठीक है जाओ, कोई नहीं दूसरा होता था कहता ठीक है तुम 50 यूरो जो भी है ड्यूटी दे जाओ और चले जाओ। वो बड़ी टेंशन स्ट्रेसफुल काम होता था। क्यों? वंस यू मिस द ट्रेन, तो उसके बाद फिर सुबह 6 बजे मिलेगी। अगर आपने जर्मनी से 5 घंटे में एम्स्टर्डम जाना है तो समझो कि आप शाम तक पहुंचोगे। सेकेंडली, हमने ये फेयर इसलिए शुरू किया था वो वाला कि हमारे आने वाली किसी भी जनरेशन को ये प्रॉब्लम जो हमने फेस किया वो नहीं हो। हमने वी स्टार्टेड ए फेयर विद 100 पीपल। अक्सर ये होता था कि हमने 18 नंबर हॉल में शुरू किया, दैट वाज नॉन, आपको पता होगा कि उसमें कोई भी एयर कंडीशनिंग नहीं थी। हाँ, तो उसके अंदर कई बार होता था यार ये 200 मीटर 500 मीटर जगह बच गई है, कैसे कैलकुलेशन करें। हम कहते थे ठीक है वी आर 5 पीपल, तुम 100 मीटर हमारे जिम में डाल दो, हम उसमें लगाएंगे। एंड वी डिड इट। जब हमें देखो, मैं जो रियलिटी, क्योंकि आई एम आउटस्पोकन, अभी मेरी पीयूष जी से भी गिरिराज सिंह जी से भी मीटिंग्स हुई थी अभी 1 महीना पहले, तो वो कहने लगे यार मार्ट बड़ा दूर है। मैंने कहा जी मार्ट तो दूर है मगर मार्ट से लोग खुश हैं। कहते क्यों? मैंने कहा जी ITBO से तो ज़्यादा बेटर था, क्योंकि जब हम एंटर करना चाहते थे वो हमें एंट्री पास नहीं देते थे कार का, और उसके बाद यू पे 20 रुपीज़, चलो जी बंदा अंदर। और कितनी हमें वहाँ पे एक स्ट्रगल ऐसी करनी पड़ती थी जो हम आपको नहीं बता सकते। देन वी स्टार्टेड, हमने कहा हम अपना एक्सपो मार्ट बनाएंगे। आई वॉज द यंगेस्ट चेयरमैन ऑफ दैट टाइम, और हमें ये पता है कि कितनी प्रॉब्लम्स आई हुई कि लैंड की और उसके बाद कोई पैसा नहीं है, कोई बंदा रिस्क नहीं लेना चाहता। इन्होंने तो बोल दिया जी हम पैसे दे देंगे, जब आप इनसे लोगे आपको देंगे नहीं, 3600 पेपर साइन करा लेंगे आपसे। टू बी वेरी फ्रैंक, देखो बुरा नहीं मानना, आप बिल्डर के पास जाते हैं वो कहता है नहीं जी अगर ये डिले हो जाएगा तो हम आपको इंटरेस्ट देंगे। क्या इंटरेस्ट देंगे? जेपी जैसे आदमी, अगर आप उसको प्रैक्टिकलिटी देखें, इट इज हैपेंड विद मी आल्सो। 50 रुपीज पर स्क्वायर फीट, जो 2 साल में जगह देनी है वो तुम्हें 10 साल में देंगे। एनीवे, ये बड़ी एक लंबी हिस्ट्री थी, और हमने मार्ट तो बनाया क्योंकि उन दिनों हमारे ब्यूरोक्रेट्स थे, कई बड़े अच्छे थे, हमारे मिनिस्टर कांसीराम बनाना जी अच्छे थे, कहते थे तुम सब यंग हो, तुम जहाँ कहोगे हम चलते हैं, बिल्कुल तुम्हारे साथ जाने को तैयार हूँ। ही कॉल्ड ऑल द चीफ सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट्स। तो हम लोग पहले हरियाणा में गए तो उन दिनों चौटाला साहब थे, उन्होंने बोला नहीं भाई ये क्या होता है, मार्ट वार्ट छोड़ो ना, 2 एकड़ चाहिए ले लो। हमने कहा नहीं सर हमें ज़्यादा चाहिए। वी वेंट टू नोएडा अथॉरिटी, उन्होंने मना कर दिया। 25 एकड़ क्या बात करते हो, पागल हो गए हो, ये तो बड़ी एक्सपेंसिव लैंड है। एनीवे, प्रभात कुमार जी ने बोला यू गो टू दैट ब्यूरोक्रेट। ग्रेटर नोएडा में गए, उन दिनों कोई ये एक्सप्रेस वे नहीं था, 3-3 घंटे लेके हम अपने आप गाड़ियाँ चला के, राकेश हम जाते थे वहाँ पे, कि सर हमें ये दिखाओ, तो उन्होंने बोला देखो तुम्हें हम लैंड देते हैं, कितनी चाहिए, 100 एकड़। हमने कहा नहीं 100 एकड़ के हमारे पास पैसे नहीं है, हमारे पास तो 25 एकड़ के भी पैसे नहीं है, तो आप एक काम कर दो कि आप इसको 30 साल की पेमेंट एक बना दो, हम भी विल टेक इट एनीवे। उन्होंने योगेश नारायण जी तुम दिनों, तो उन्होंने बोला है कि ठीक है आप आओ साइन करो पेपर। आप यकीन करो वो लैंड मिलने के बाद जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ मार्ट का बना है, जिसको कहते हैं लीज डीड, यहाँ तो एक किसी के पास आप चले जाते थे, मकान आपका आपने दिया ठीक है, उसको 6 महीने लगे हैं हमें 17 लॉयर्स के पास ले जाने के लिए, उसको फ्रीज करने के लिए। एक एक चीज का ध्यान रखा कि कल हमारे जो नई जनरेशन होगी उसके अंदर किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम ना आए। उसके अंदर आपने देखा कि अभी हमने होटल बनाया, बड़े लोग आए, उसने बोला जी मैरिएट कर दो, उसको दूसरा नाम दे दो, तीसरा नाम दे दो। वी कॉल्ड एवरीबॉडी, हमने कहा ठीक है तुम आओ। 1 महीना मीटिंग्स हुई है हमारी इनके साथ कि हाइट वाला कहता है नहीं जी ये तो आप क्या 100 करोड़ रुपया तो लगा है, आपको 60-70 लाख रुपए महीना हमें देना पड़ेगा इसको 18 महीने के लिए चलाने के लिए पर मंथ। हमने कहा यार हम तो पागल हैं, 136 कमरे बना दिए हैं, 136 रूम, हम तो तुम्हारे लिए कमा रहे हैं ना। हमने कहा नहीं। जब हमने लीज को सारा पढ़ा, हमने कहा देखो भाई नो मैरियट नो नथिंग, ये एक्सपो इन ही बनेगा, और एक्सपो इन हम 5 स्टार इसको स्टैंप कराएंगे। वी मेड इट, वी आर रनिंग इट, और एक्सो इनका 5 स्टार का मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ टूरिज्म से इसको लाइसेंस मिला। मोर 80 रूम्स आर मोर कमिंग, अभी अप्रैल में और ऐड हो जाएंगे। आपके बाहर आए तो अंदर के अंदर वो रहे। मैं ये इसलिए कहना चाहता हूं कि इस सारी गेम के पीछे कितनी स्ट्रगल होगी, मतलब 30 साल तो मेरे को हो गए हैं इस चक्रों में सारे, हर एक चीज के अंदर स्ट्रगल है। सरन जी हैं ये चला रहे हैं मार्ट पे, कहते हैं जी ओपन करो खुलो, कई जगह हर एक जगह प्रॉब्लम आती है। मगर हम आज भी जो अभी हमें एक नजर आ रहा है कि अप्रैल तक आपका एयरपोर्ट बनेगा, बाहर जाएंगे वो यहीं पे रुकेंगे, ठीक है वी हैव लेस रूम्स बट वी आर गोइंग टू ऐड 80 एंड वी आर प्लानिंग टू ऐड अनदर 100 ऑल्सो वहीं पे, ताकि आपका जो फ्यूचर है, आपकी जो जनरेशन है, देखो हम लोगों ने तो रहना नहीं, कुछ भी कह लो, ज्यादा ज्यादा कितने हैं। हमने इसलिए सारा काम किया कि आप, मैं 2 शब्दों में ये कहना चाहूंगा आपके, जो भी आप अपना काम करें, एक तो कभी भी ये मत कीजिए, आप नहीं बुरा मानना भाई बैंक से मुझे लोन मिल गया, बैंक से आप 25 करोड़ रुपया लो तो पर एनम का इंटरेस्ट पता कितना 2.5 करोड़, तो यू आर अर्निंग फॉर द बैंक। ट्राई ये करो जितने पैसे तुम्हें बैंक से चाहिए तो ले लो, वो ज्यादा डिले मत करो जी, क्योंकि अक्सर हमने बड़े एक्सपोर्टर बड़े बड़े देखे हैं कि उन्होंने बैंक से लोन ले लिए, दे बोट ए प्रॉपर्टी, दे बोट ए मर्क पोर्च, वो चीजें काम नहीं आती बॉस। जितना डाउन टू अर्थ चलोगे, जितना स्लो चलोगे लाइफ के अंदर, ज़्यादा सक्सेसफुल रहोगे। मतलब मैं ये अपना एक्सपीरियंस जो पिछले 40 साल का है वो बता रहा हूँ, यही मैंने अपने बच्चों को बताया। डू इट इन ए प्रॉपर वे, ऑल्दो आई बिलोंग्स टू ए गुड फैमिली ऑल्सो। आपने पीवीआर का नाम सुना होगा, ही इज माई ब्रदर इन लॉ, सो उनकी भी यही पॉलिसी है। आज भी मेरा बेटा भी वही काम करता है। इंस्टेड ऑफ, सरन साहब कह रहे थे आपकी नई जनरेशन क्यों नहीं आ रही, मैंने कहा वो कहते हैं जी एक्सपोर्ट इज वेरी रिस्की। अभी मेरी कल एक फ्रेंड से बात हो रही थी जर्मनी, तो उन्होंने बोला जी एक ईयू ने नया रेगुलेशन पास किया है कि आप 150 यूरो का हर एक आदमी यूरोप के अंदर चाइना से इंपोर्ट कर सकता है। यू डोंट हैव टू पे एनी टैक्स और ड्यूटी। वो तुम्हारे घर में अमेजोन पे ऑर्डर करो, चाहे वो 10 यूरो का है 15 यूरो का है, वो वहाँ पे दे देंगे। कहता हम होलसेलर जिनके पास 10-10 हज़ार मीटर के वेयर हाउसेज हैं, कहता हम तो बिल्कुल बंद होने में आ गए हैं। करें क्या, मतलब ये बिजनेस भी अभी थोड़ा सा बड़ा रिस्की सा होता जा रहा है एक्सपोर्ट का। तभी तो ये भाई साहब खूब कह रहे हैं पैसे लो, बड़ी बड़ी शिपमेंटें भेजो ठीक है ना, आप बुरा नहीं मानना, क्योंकि मैं अपना एक्सपीरियंस और एक चीज जो आपको फ्रेंकली कहना चाह रहा हूँ, जो काम करो छोटा काम करो, टेक योर प्रॉफिट और इजी वे से चलो, अपनी लाइफ जियो, क्योंकि दिस इज फ्यूचर। थैंक यू सो मच।